First of all, I want to give honor to my leaders, my pastor, first lady, saints members, and friends. It's a privilege. I'm nervous. I'm even, especially a little bit more nervous because it's fourth grade, and I'm trying to get an A. So y'all just bear with me. So I want to start off with a question real quick. Just raise your hand. You ain't got to answer. Just want to take a kind of a consensus of everybody in the room right now. Who believes that the Bible and science can work together? Show of hands. Anybody? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you can't count.
5, 6, 7. Okay, that's the majority of everybody in here. Okay, so first, because we all know about the Bible and everything, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of Merriam-Webster about science. So Merriam-Webster, the definition of science is basically the state of knowing. It's knowledge as distinguished from ignorance or misunderstanding. But that's just the Merriam-Webster definition of science. But one thing that I've come to learn about science is it's so much more to it, especially when you look at it biblically. Science, first of all, let's go to, well, you don't have to go to, I'm just gonna read it. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27.
Ooh, I like what you did. I like what you did.
Oh, y'all going? I'm gonna wait till y'all finish. Everybody, y'all got it or y'all need some more time? Y'all good? Okay. So, and it reads, I believe this is the King James Version, I'm not sure, I didn't specify it. But it says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So the first thing that gets me is that God gave us dominion over all of these things, right? So if God gave us dominion over all of these things, it's kind of common sense for us to be able to understand them, right? We need the knowledge to understand them, to know what they do, what they don't do, what they like, what they don't like. And so to me, and this is just my opinion, about science, science is literally the wisdom of God that God sort of poured into us when he first created us. Because without that, we would not be able to rule over the fish of the sea and all the creation of the earth. Because, I mean, let's face it, you're ruling over something, you gotta know about it, right? So to me, that to me is science in its purest form. And when you look at science in its purest form, they go together for the simple fact that it came from God, right? And anything that comes from God agrees with God. So, let me go back. Oh, I'm on the right page. So, here's the problem that I have, and it kind of gets kind of hectic from here, so I'm gonna try to go take my time with this. So the thing with science is that man, and I was interviewing Pastor, I think it was either last Sunday or Sunday before, and he brought up something so key about how man, let me lift this up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Something about how man has really taken science and used it to counter God. So there's two problems that I have with this. Number one, when God created Adam, Adam was perfect, right? Adam was perfect, but when he sinned, all of mankind became flawed. So when you have something that's flawed, trying to understand something that's godly, there's always going to be some kind of error along the way.
Yes.
And when you take that, aside from the part of mankind that's trying to counter God, even just trying to understand his ways and understand his creation, because we're flawed, not something of our own, but we were born into sin and shaping into iniquity. So we're going to error in trying to understand it. That's one thing by itself. But then when you have people who come in and try to intentionally counter God, for example, clones. Anybody ever heard about cloning? They cloning sheep and animals and humans and all kinds of stuff. Well, it's children in here, so I can't say it. But there's something going on with the anatomies, human anatomies and everything being switched and all of that. So these are things that really man is using to say to God, I can do this. I don't need you, right? I can do this. And so this is the attitude that man has, and this is what's caused such a huge debate between science and the Bible now. And let me go. Oh, before I get into this, the harmony between the Bible and science is basically called dual revelation. And that's basically, science and the Bible going hand in hand. So what we have here, what man has done, has created categories with dual revelation. This is pretty much a summation of what some people believe. First one, matter of fact, let me hold this. First one is the conflict model. The conflict model says that the Bible and science are at war with each other. In other words, one loses and one wins. So both of them cannot exist within the same area. So either the Bible doesn't exist and science exists, or science doesn't exist and the Bible exists. This is what some people believe. The second one is the separate magisterium. This one is where science deals with facts while the Bible deals with feelings. So they're saying, okay, if you want to get the truth, then go to the book of science. If you want to feel good, if you want to be moved by your emotions, then that's when you go to the Bible. This is what people believe as far as the separate magisterium. Next one is the complementary model. Now this one is a little bit tricky because it says basically there's a bit of overlap between the Bible and science. In other words, science doesn't have much revelation about God, while the Bible doesn't have much revelation about science. So there's like a little bit that the Bible explains about science, and then there's a little bit about science. There's a little bit about the Bible that science points to, but it's not a whole lot. It's a very small margin. That is the complementary model. The next model is the fusion model. Excuse me. The fusion model, this is where there is total overlap between the Bible and science. Everything in the Bible has a link to science, and everything in science has a link to the Bible. Now we know, this is just me, because I don't know how everybody's mind is. I don't believe that every single thing about science has a link about the Bible. For example, the Bible doesn't talk about TVs. The Bible doesn't talk about x-rays and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's a small example, but it's kind of impossible for everything. Like science, everything in science has a link to the Bible. Same thing with the Bible having a link to science. It's kind of impossible. I would like to believe it, but that's just not how it is, right? So the next one is, the constructive integration model. This is where there is significant overlap between the Bible and science. However, there are things that science addresses that the Bible does not address. So this is where, me personally, I believe in the constructive integration model, because it's saying that yes, there are things that the Bible does explain about science, significant things. That means there's a lot, but still there's kind of a gray area a little bit, if that makes sense. Same thing. So these are pretty much the different categories that kind of explain the debate with the Bible and science. And so I just wanted to let you guys know about that and to kind of see where I stood. Like I said again, I'm with the constructive integration model. Again, that's significant overlap, but again, there's a gray area where there's nothing, right? So, let me go over. Okay, my paper's all messed up. All right. So now I hope that I've given you guys a little bit of an overview of how Bible and science kind of work together and the debates behind it and all of that stuff. So now I want to move on to the origin of the cosmos, basically the universe, planets, and everything like that. So I'm sure, okay, so I'm sure everybody in here at some point in time have kind of looked up in the sky and kind of wondered, wow, you know, everything is beautiful, the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything. Everything is so beautiful. You know, how does that happen? How was that created? How did that come into being? You know, I'm sure all of us at some point in time have kind of thought about this stuff. So there's actually a group of people, when you're looking at the origin of the cosmos, like the universe and the planets, there's actually a group of people who believe that all of this came about through natural means, with no supernatural intervention, right? In other words, God is not involved with how all of that was made. And these people are called naturalistic materialists. Naturalistic materialists, these are ones, again, that believe that everything, planets, stars, earth, everything, universe, Milky Way, all of that stuff came about on its own, pretty much. Now, we know that's not true, because, now, let me kind of pause here with that. Even if you were to kind of consider that, you still have to realize that even if it was put on kind of a naturalistic will, for lack of better words, where did the will come from? You know what I mean? If the universe kind of operates on a certain law of physics, who put the law of physics in place? There has to be an origin. Because if you look at, we live in a dimension of time. And matter of fact, let me read this quote. This is actually a quote from Hugh Ross. I believe the book is Creation as Science. It's a man named Hugh Ross. And one of the things that he goes by is the reasons to believe creation model. And I'm going to be quoting him a lot throughout, okay? So this quote says, within the universe, time is the dimension in which cause and effect relationships occur. Effects follow their causes. So the beginning of cosmic time implies that an agent, which is the cause, outside of the universe's space-time dimensions is responsible for bringing into existence the space, the time, the matter, and the energy, which all represent the effects, right? So this right here says to me that it points to God, ultimately. Regardless of how you try to put it, whether you say that it operates on its own, there's an origin. Because, like you said, it was talking about cause and effect. An effect cannot exist without a cause, right? There's got to be an agent that causes something to happen. The universe, cosmos, and everything represents the effect. There's something that had to take place to cause all of this to come into being, right? So to kind of say that this, now, like I said, you could kind of say that God put it in place and then kind of put it on a naturalistic will to operate on its own after that. But you can't say that it just came out of nowhere, right? There's always an origin. And like I said, like it points out, the agent is outside of the universe's space and time dimensions. That means that whoever put this in place does not have to operate within time. And the only person who has the power, the ability to operate outside of time is God. Why? Because he made time, right? So, here we go. Let's keep going. Oh, I lost my place. Jesus, y'all hold on. Okay. I'm doing good. All right. Let me see. All right. So, let's go to the next page, because I think this next part is so cool, how Hugh Ross kind of bring this about. So in recognizing all of this, somebody could kind of ask, well, what does this have to do with us as humans? What does this have to do? How does Jupiter and Mars and the stars and all of that, what does that have to do with me? Well, Hugh Ross, and again, this is from his book, Creation of Science, he gives such an awesome explanation for this. He says, the universe has been extraordinarily fine-tuned or designed to make the existence of life possible. This cosmic fine-tuning becomes increasingly more extraordinary in the progression from bacterial life's requirements to the necessities for human life. Humanity has been placed at the best cosmic location and at the best cosmic time to observe the beauty, power, wisdom, and love of the Creator in creating and shaping the cosmos for their benefit. So what Hugh Ross is saying here is that God created all of this for us so that we would be able to live in a universe that, looking at it, you wouldn't think that the complexities and everything that's going on, you wouldn't think that life would be possible. But God, and it goes back to, it's a reference to his love, his overall love for us, that he would strategically create all of these things for the simple fact of, I want my people to have somewhere to dwell. I want my people to have somewhere to live and be free and operate, right? So, in continuing this, because now I want to turn the focus even more on the humanity. God created the universe for humanity, right? So it says here, and again, this is Hugh Ross, a lot of quotes from Hugh Ross. So he says, God personally shaped and crafted the universe to produce all the essential ingredients for life, ultimately human life. The heavens contain abundant evidence of God's fine-tuning for the sake of all life. Human observers thus have the potential to uncover evidence of the supernatural, super-intelligent design of life's cosmic environment for the specific benefit of humanity. So the overall theme here is that this is all benefiting us. This is all for us, right? So let me go ahead and keep on. God personally shaped and crafted Earth so that the planet would provide for humanity's physical needs and well-being. Earth contains abundant evidence of God's fine-tuning for the sake of human life and civilization. Human investigators thus have the potential to uncover evidence of the supernatural, super-intelligent design of Earth for the specific benefit and bountiful provision of the human species. And this last quote says, God is the author of all life. God supernaturally intervened to create life early in Earth's history under relatively hostile conditions and to sustain that life in the optimal time, place, and form for the future benefit of humanity. Now, I want to point out something in this last one where it says under relatively hostile conditions. That to me, at least to me, says that before God made us, earth was not a place that could be habitable. So God strategically changed it up so that we could have a place to dwell. And again, I keep specifying the fact that God did all of this. You see all of that up in the sky, that's for us. That is for us. Amen? So now, I want to move from the cosmos to, we're going to talk about us a little bit more, okay? Now, I got to admit something to you guys. I made a mistake in my class, actually. I made a mistake. We were talking about this specific subject on humanity. And I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I'm going to tell y'all what happened. In one of my discussion boards, we were talking about this, and there was a quote that really had me thinking like, wow, what? That I never thought of that. That's crazy. For example, you know how you ever seen that picture of the apes and how they each one kind of evolves into a human? There's a woman named Deborah Hartzman, and she tackles this head on, and the evidence that she brings up, I'm like, yo, this is like lit. Gotcha, okay. All right, so she says, human anatomy clearly has, now again, this is talking about the great apes, how we resemble great apes and everything. This is that common theory that's out there now. So she says, human anatomy clearly has many similarities to chimpanzees, gorillas, and other primates, including color vision, hands with opposite thumbs, and flat faces. Humans are not just apes. We certainly have abilities beyond other primates, but we are also closely related to this family of creatures. The evolutionary model predicts that humans share a common ancestor with other great apes. Fossils have been found for over 6,000 individual creatures and several species in the time between that common ancestor and modern Homo sapiens. Over the last several million years, these creatures show a gradual transition toward bipedal walking, greater height, and greater brain size. The exact line of descent to Homo sapiens is not yet known, but many new fossils and entire new species continue to be discovered from this period, filling in the evolutionary picture. So basically, she has this whole theory that we evolved from apes, pretty much. And let me read this last quote from her. She says, genetics strongly confirms the prediction that humans share common ancestry with great apes and with all life on Earth. Here's one striking example. Chimpanzees have 24 pairs of chromosomes, while humans have just 23. If humans share a common ancestor with other great apes, evolution predicts that 2 chromosomes fuse in the line descending to humans, but did not fuse in the line descending to chimps, right? So she presented a very extravagant theory about humans evolving from apes. And I ain't gonna lie, I went with it. I was like, wow, this is like, I need to, where's the scripture at to go with this? So I posted my discussion board, and my teacher, in a whole lot of words, basically told me, go back and read. You know, the one, yeah. He told me to go back and read. So this is what I ended up finding about us that dispelled that entire rumor about us evolving from great apes, right? So Hugh Ross, again, It's God. It's awesome. Hugh Ross says, the human race is qualitatively different from all other animals, including the great apes and the hominids. Humanity is Earth's only life form, past or present, to exhibit a set of spiritual qualities characterized as the image of God. So what he's saying basically is that we're the only ones who were created in the image of God, right?
That's right.
Because I'm telling you, my whole thing was, okay, God, we were created from the dust of the earth, right? And based on the chronology of Genesis, the animals were created before us. So is it safe to assume that the animals came from the dust of the earth too? Right? This is what I was thinking. And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense for us to kind of evolve from animals a little bit, since I'm assuming because we were created from the dust of the earth, they were created from the dust of the earth too. But like I said, this dispels the entire thing. So he says, manifestations of this spiritual nature include the capacity to evaluate past actions, to contemplate the future, to consider what lies beyond death, to comprehend and attempt to maintain moral and ethical standards, to seek connection with a higher being or force, to engage in worship, to express curiosity and creativity about matters far removed from the immediate environment and immediate survival needs, and to seek ultimate hope, purpose, and destiny. So this dispels the entire theory that we were created from apes, because God took his time in creating us. God took his time breathing the breath of life. That's why it's kind of crazy how Pastor was praying about the breath of life, because I was thinking about that. God literally breathed himself into us and made us in his image. And that makes us different from any other animal. So when you look at all of this, the cosmos and the humanity and the debates between science and the Bible, what it's all saying is that God loves us. God took his time with all of us. Everything that we see, every bit of creation that we see, God did it for us because he loved us just that much. And so I hope that I didn't stutter too much and stop too much for y'all. I hope I did an okay job with this. I'm pretty much done. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a question. I'm trying to figure out where the confusion came in, where the knowledge is linked, where God made man, or science was not linked to the Bible.
Right.
Science is totally, it's not a question of statement.
Right.
Science is totally linked to the Bible.
Yes.
Because the Bible says about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes.
And if there was not a tree of knowledge of good and evil, if they had eaten off that tree, there would be no need to go to school to study, because we would be born knowing everything already.
Right.
So the knowledge was already implanted here for us to receive after we study by God. So they just named it science.
Right. It's basically, it's God's wisdom. That's
God,
all it is.
That's what it is. It's God's wisdom.
But like I was saying, man has taken that and corrupted it into all kinds of different stuff. That's why there's such a huge debate on it now. But science, or what God's wisdom in its purest form, they go together.
That's right.
Because it comes from God, right?
And God is outside of time. So
right.
That's not. And then in Isaiah 40, 10 through 15, there's you need to read that. But then in Genesis 1 and 20, it lets us know that the animals came from God's mind. He spoke them.
Right.
That's your